Hey there, friends. I'm so glad you're joining me today as we dive into something that affects every one of us in different ways, yet often without us even realizing it. We're talking about resentment, that heavy, toxic emotion that can creep into our lives, sometimes without warning, but often with a deep and lasting impact. It might start as something small, maybe an unresolved argument, a disappointment, or even a small misunderstanding. But what happens next is something many of us have experienced. Resentment starts to build. It doesn't stay small, and it doesn't just disappear. It grows, it festers, and over time, it takes root deep within our hearts, clouding our judgment and stealing our peace of mind. Think about it for a moment. Have you ever felt that sharp sting of resentment after someone wronged you? That feeling where you can't seem to shake off the anger, the frustration, or the hurt? At first, it may feel like something you can handle. But if you hold onto it long enough, it begins to consume you. It's like trying to carry a heavy stone around all day. It becomes harder to breathe, harder to think clearly, and the weight of that stone slowly but surely starts to affect your body and mind in ways you never expected. You see, resentment doesn't just affect our emotions, it can take a toll on our physical health too. Headaches, muscle tension, even stomach problems, these can all be side effects of that emotional weight we carry. But why do we hold on to resentment? Why does it feel so hard to let go of something that clearly harms us? One of the key teachings in Buddhism is that our attachment to negative emotions like resentment leads to suffering. It's a simple truth, yet so difficult to grasp when we're in the middle of the storm. We want to hold onto the pain, thinking that it somehow gives us power or control over the situation, or over the person who wronged us. But in reality, what we're doing is locking ourselves in a prison of our own making. And that's where the real suffering begins. The Buddha taught us that suffering comes from our attachments, whether it's our attachment to people, possessions, or, in this case, emotions. Resentment is no different. The longer we hold onto it, the more deeply it embeds itself in our lives, turning us into prisoners of our past hurts and grievances. But here's the thing, we don't have to live this way. The Buddha didn't just tell us about the suffering, he also gave us a way out. There's a path to emotional freedom, to letting go of resentment, and it begins with understanding how to manage our emotions. When we're caught in the grip of resentment, it's easy to forget that we have the power to choose how we respond to our emotions. It's easy to feel like we're at the mercy of our feelings, like they control us rather than the other way around. But here's where the practice of mindfulness comes in. By becoming more aware of our emotions, by taking a moment to pause, breathe, and observe what's happening within us, we can begin to break free from that cycle of anger and hurt. Imagine, just for a moment, that you could observe your resentment like you would observe a cloud in the sky. You don't have to react to it. You don't have to let it take over. You can simply notice it, acknowledge it, and then let it float away. It's not about suppressing your feelings or pretending they don't exist. It's about giving yourself the space to recognize that you are not your emotions. You are the one who can choose how to respond to them. And that's a powerful shift. Buddhist teachings encourage us to cultivate a mind that's calm, clear, and compassionate, especially towards ourselves. We often think of compassion as something we show to others, but it's just as important to practice self-compassion, especially when we're dealing with negative emotions like resentment. Instead of letting that resentment define us, we can choose to let it go, knowing that it's not serving us. It's not helping us heal, and it's certainly not bringing us closer to peace. As we move forward today, I want to invite you to think about the moments in your life where resentment might have taken hold. Maybe it's something recent, or maybe it's a wound from the past that you've been carrying for far too long. Whatever it is, know that there is a way to release it, to find freedom from its grip, and to heal. And that journey begins with recognizing the power of your own mind and the wisdom of Buddhist practices that teach us how to transform negative emotions. Throughout this video, we'll explore how to let go of resentment using Buddhist teachings, and how we can begin to transform that heavy weight into something lighter and more freeing. You don't have to carry that stone any longer. You have the ability to set it down, to step into a life of greater peace, and to release the suffering that resentment brings. So let's take that first step together. Let's learn how to let go of resentment, and in doing so, find a deeper sense of emotional freedom and inner calm. Hello again, everyone. Let's talk about something fundamental to the teachings of the Buddha: attachment. It's one of the most pervasive sources of suffering in our lives, and it's something that we all deal with in one way or another. The Buddha understood that attachment is the root of much of our pain and discomfort. When we attach ourselves too strongly to people, objects, ideas, or even our emotions, we set ourselves up for suffering. And one of the most insidious forms of attachment? Resentment. Now, I want you to think about resentment for a moment. At its core, resentment is a form of attachment. We hold on to the hurt, we replay the wrongs that have been done to us over and over again in our minds, and we let those past hurts shape who we are. It becomes a part of us. But here's the catch: that resentment doesn't change the past. It doesn't make us feel better, and it certainly doesn't make the person who hurt us suffer more. In fact, it only continues to harm us, day after day. The Buddha taught us that suffering arises when we cling to things, when we get attached to people, outcomes, expectations, or even our emotions. The longer we hold on to something, the more tightly we cling, the more we deepen our suffering. But there's good news, and that's the path to freedom, the path that Buddhism offers us. According to the Buddha, to truly find peace and freedom in our lives, we must learn to let go. Let go of our attachment to things, let go of our attachment to our emotions, and let go of our attachment to our past. That doesn't mean we ignore or dismiss our feelings. Not at all. It means that we acknowledge them, but we don't let them control us. You see, this is where the practice of non-attachment comes into play. Non-attachment is not about suppressing or denying our feelings. It's about recognizing that we are not our emotions. Our emotions are temporary experiences that come and go, just like the weather. They don't define who we are, and they don't have to rule our lives. This is what the Buddha was teaching when he spoke about non-attachment. It's about creating space between ourselves and our emotions so that we can respond with wisdom and mindfulness, rather than reacting impulsively out of pain or frustration. When it comes to resentment, it's all too easy to get caught in the trap of thinking that by holding onto it, we are somehow getting justice, or that we are protecting ourselves from further harm. But the truth is, holding onto resentment only keeps us trapped in the past. It keeps us stuck in a cycle of pain and bitterness, and it prevents us from moving forward. It's like carrying a heavy backpack filled with stones. It only weighs us down and makes every step harder. So how do we practice non-attachment when it comes to resentment? The first step is awareness. We must become aware of the resentment as it arises within us. We can't let it sneak up on us and take over. Once we recognize that resentment is present, we can begin to detach from it. We can acknowledge that it's there, but we don't have to let it consume us. We don't have to let it define us. This is where mindfulness plays a key role. Mindfulness is the practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment. When we become mindful of our emotions, we create space between ourselves and those emotions. This allows us to choose how to respond rather than simply reacting from a place of hurt. It's important to remember that this doesn't mean we won't feel hurt. Of course, we will. We're human, and we experience pain. But the difference is that when we practice non-attachment, we no longer let that hurt rule our lives. We choose not to let it control us. We allow ourselves to feel the pain, but we don't hold onto it. We let it pass, just as we would let a cloud pass across the sky. Another crucial aspect of non-attachment is understanding that our emotional experiences are impermanent. Just like the clouds in the sky, emotions come and go. One moment, we might feel resentment, but the next moment, that feeling can fade away. And just as we can't hold onto the clouds forever, we can't hold onto our emotions forever either. They are transient, and they do not define who we are. The Buddha also taught that one of the key ways to break free from attachment is through compassion both for ourselves and for others. When we hold onto resentment, we are often punishing ourselves. We are carrying the weight of our own anger and hurt, and that doesn't lead to healing. But when we approach ourselves with compassion, we begin to release the need to hold onto those negative emotions. Compassion allows us to see ourselves and others with understanding, and it creates space for healing. When it comes to dealing with resentment, it can be helpful to remember that forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for you. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing the wrong that was done to you. It means freeing yourself from the grip of resentment, so you can move forward with peace. When we forgive, we are practicing non-attachment. We are letting go of the emotional weight that we've been carrying, and we are choosing to walk in the direction of freedom and peace. So, let me leave you with this thought: non-attachment isn't about denying our emotions or pretending they don't exist. It's about acknowledging them, feeling them, and then letting them go. It's about understanding that emotions like resentment are like passing clouds in the sky, they come and they go. And just as we can't control the weather, we can't always control our emotions. But what we can control is how we respond to them. By practicing non-attachment, we learn to let go of the things that weigh us down, including resentment. And in doing so, we open ourselves up to a life of greater peace, freedom, and emotional clarity. Remember, letting go doesn't mean we stop feeling, it means we stop letting our feelings control us. And that's where true freedom lies. In the teachings of Buddhism, mindfulness stands as a cornerstone of emotional regulation. It's not just a practice, it's a way of being, a method for transforming our inner world. When we encounter feelings of resentment, they often feel like a storm that overwhelms us, a force that we believe we have no control over. But mindfulness, with its ability to observe without judgment, teaches us that we are not at the mercy of our emotions. We have the power to step back and witness these emotions as they arise, without instantly reacting or being swept away by them. Imagine this: resentment begins to rise within us. In that moment, instead of launching into defensive thoughts or lashing out at others, mindfulness invites us to pause. We take a deep breath, not to suppress the emotion, but to create space for it. We begin to observe the resentment, not as an enemy or a burden, but as a passing moment, a temporary guest in our mind. This shift in perspective is profound because it teaches us that emotions like resentment are not permanent. They are like clouds in the sky, ever-changing and transient. Through the lens of mindfulness, resentment is no longer something that controls us. Instead of reacting from a place of hurt, we observe with awareness. In this moment of observation, we allow ourselves the gift of choice. We realize that resentment, no matter how powerful it feels in the moment, does not have to dictate our actions. We are not bound to our first impulse, which is often driven by a desire for revenge or self-righteousness. Mindfulness creates a pause between stimulus and response, a space in which we can choose a more peaceful, more constructive reaction. This practice isn't just about pushing the feeling away or pretending it doesn't exist. In fact, mindfulness teaches us that the more we suppress or avoid our emotions, the stronger they grow. Resentment festers when we ignore it, when we bury it under layers of distractions or avoidance. But mindfulness is about bringing the full force of our awareness to these feelings. It's about confronting them directly. By bringing our attention to the emotion itself, we allow ourselves to understand it, to see why it's there, and what it might be teaching us. Often, when we take the time to understand resentment, we realize that it's rooted in something deeper, perhaps an unmet need, a misunderstanding, or a past wound. By understanding resentment, we disempower it. The more we resist or push it away, the more it seems to control us. But by embracing it mindfully, we acknowledge its presence and, paradoxically, we free ourselves from it. Mindfulness, then, is not just a way to manage emotions, it's a way to transform them. We don't deny the existence of negative emotions, but we learn how to work with them skillfully. When we are mindful, we can feel resentment without letting it consume us. We can sit with discomfort and, through awareness, allow it to pass. The beauty of mindfulness in releasing resentment is that it doesn't require us to do anything extraordinary. It simply asks us to be present, to breathe, to observe. In doing so, we create space for peace, for clarity, and for emotional freedom. Instead of clinging to resentment, we gently let go. This process is not instantaneous, it takes practice, and it requires patience. But over time, mindfulness builds our resilience. We develop the capacity to experience strong emotions without being overwhelmed by them. As we move through our lives, mindfulness teaches us that the way to peace is not to suppress our feelings, but to understand them fully. Resentment, like all emotions, is a natural part of the human experience. But it is not our destiny to be ruled by it. Through the practice of mindfulness, we can release resentment and choose peace, one moment at a time. This is the true power of mindfulness. It transforms not just how we think, but how we live. So, the next time resentment arises, pause. Breathe. Observe. Let go. In doing so, we not only free ourselves from the chains of negative emotion, but we also open the door to a life of greater peace, understanding, and emotional mastery. As we dive deeper into the teachings of Buddhism, we arrive at one of the most profound aspects of emotional healing: compassion. Compassion is not just a concept, it is the very heart of Buddhist practice. It's the force that drives us to transcend our suffering and to understand the suffering of others. But here's the thing: when we're holding on to resentment, we often become blind to the bigger picture. We become so wrapped up in our own hurt and anger that we fail to see that those who hurt us are often acting from their own place of suffering, ignorance, or unresolved pain. This understanding is where compassion begins. The Buddha taught us that we are all connected through our experiences, and while we may not always understand someone else's actions, we can always recognize their humanity. People lash out, they hurt others, and they make mistakes because they too are struggling. When we begin to cultivate compassion, we begin to shift our focus from the harm done to us to the recognition that everyone, including ourselves, is caught in a web of pain and misunderstanding. Compassion doesn't excuse the wrong that was done to us, rather, it helps us see beyond the wrong and into the heart of the person who caused it. It allows us to understand that their actions were likely born from their own unresolved pain or ignorance. Now, this doesn't mean that we have to condone or accept hurtful behavior. Far from it. but what it does mean is that we free ourselves from the chains of resentment. When we hold on to anger and hurt, we carry a heavy burden in our hearts. This burden doesn't weigh on the person who wronged us, it weighs on us. Resentment steals our peace, our joy, and our sense of calm. And that's where forgiveness comes in. Forgiveness in Buddhism is often misunderstood. It is not about pretending that what happened didn't matter. It is not about telling ourselves that the person's behavior was acceptable or that we should just get over it. Forgiveness is about releasing the grip that resentment has on our hearts. The Buddha taught us that forgiveness is a gift we give to ourselves, not to the person who wronged us. It's about letting go of the emotional weight that we have been carrying, so we can walk forward with lighter hearts. Think about it this way: when we choose not to forgive, we continue to tie ourselves to the very event that hurt us. We allow it to have power over our emotions, over our thoughts, and over our peace. But when we forgive, we break that chain. We are no longer tethered to the anger, the hurt, or the resentment. We free ourselves. Forgiveness doesn't mean that the other person is off the hook or that they won't face the consequences of their actions. It simply means that we no longer allow their actions to dictate our emotional state. We choose peace over pain. It's important to understand that forgiveness is not a one-time event. It's a process, one that requires patience and self-compassion. It takes time to heal from emotional wounds, and it's okay if forgiveness doesn't come immediately. What matters is that we commit to the process, to the intention of letting go, and to opening our hearts to the possibility of healing. When we let go of resentment and cultivate compassion, we unlock a door to peace that was previously hidden from us. We stop holding on to the past, and we start living in the present, with a heart that is open to love, understanding, and true freedom. And here's the most beautiful part: by releasing our resentment and embracing forgiveness, we not only heal ourselves, but we also become a source of healing for others. Our compassion can inspire others to let go of their own resentment and to begin their own journey of emotional freedom. The Buddha's teachings remind us that forgiveness is not for the person who wronged us, it's for us. It's a way to restore peace to our hearts and minds. When we forgive, we release the toxic emotions that cloud our judgment and weigh us down. We step into a life of greater emotional clarity, where our actions are guided by wisdom, not by the pain of past hurts. So, remember this: compassion and forgiveness are not signs of weakness, but of strength. They are the ultimate tools for emotional mastery. They are the keys to living a life that is not ruled by resentment, anger, or pain. When we choose compassion, we choose to see others through the lens of understanding. When we choose forgiveness, we choose to free ourselves from the burdens that weigh us down. Through these practices, we invite true peace into our lives. And when we cultivate peace within ourselves, we can offer it to the world around us.